Hey boys and girls, today we are going to be in our 10 through 20 book. We're starting a new unit today on measurement and a new module that's on measurement. So we have been talking about our customary measurements. We've talked about length, weight, and capacity. And so today we are going to think about what we know about those different measurements, and we are going to convert them. We've discussed this a little bit already, but we're going to convert them. We're going to change inches to feet, or cups to pints, ounces to tons, things like that. And this is something that we will have to do in real life. This is a skill that's very necessary, so we are doing something that you guys are going to utilize and be able to use as you grow up. So let's start looking. It says Mount Rainier in the state of Washington is one of the snowiest places on earth. Wouldn't that be fun if we were in one of the snowiest places on earth? During one winter snowstorm, a meteorologist predicted 15 and a half feet of snow. Can you imagine 15 and a half feet? So imagine somebody really tall, a 6 feet tall person, and that would be more than two of them standing on top of each other. Wow. So 15 and a half feet of snow. Another meteorologist predicted 156 inches. Which snow prediction is greater? Okay, so we've got 15 and a half feet and 156 inches. So I'm going to write those up here. And then our question is, which prediction is greater and by how much? So we have a couple of things that we need to answer. So, like we have discussed, we need to think about our units. Think about first what we're talking about. We are talking about feet and inches. And next you need to think, what do I know about inches and feet? Hopefully, you are remembering that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So, now you have two choices on what you can do to solve this. We can change, and we're going to do both, 15 and a half feet into inches, or you can change 156 inches into feet. And if it's not exactly a certain amount of feet, then it might also be some inches. In order to do that, we definitely need to use what we know about inches and feet to help us calculate that. So, if I am discussing feet, and I'm changing to inches, I'm going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit. And remember, we have talked about if we're going to from bigger to smaller, we are going to multiply. But if we go from a smaller unit, inches, to a bigger unit, feet, we're going to divide. Because it's going to take a lot more inches than 15 feet. It wouldn't be 15 inches is the same as 15 feet. So there are different ways that you could do this. So we need to break down 15 and a half feet. So we could say we know that that's 15.5 feet because that's half. And we're going to multiply that by 12. Because I know there are 12 inches in a foot. So 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 5 is 10, 11, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. We'll move it on down. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 1 is 1. So it's 186. I'm going to put my decimal back here. That's the same as 186 inches. Now you might have also looked at that, and you could have said 15 times 12 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 1 is 1, and gotten 180, and then multiplied 12 times a half and gotten 6, then 180 plus 6 is still 186. So there's different ways that you could solve that. So we now know that 15.5 feet is equal to 186 inches. So now I can answer this. This prediction is greater, 15.5 feet. How much greater is it? Well, in order to solve that, I'll do it over here. That's 186 inches. The other prediction was 156 inches. So that's a 30-inch difference. Alright, but I still want to solve it this way. Now, in my opinion, and if I can, I always convert my units from bigger to smaller because I prefer to multiply. When you are moving from smaller to bigger, you're going to need to divide, and I am not as good at dividing as I am multiplying, so I always convert my bigger unit to a smaller unit. It is totally your preference on how you do that. So I want you to think about what skills you're better at. Are you better at multiplying, or are you better at dividing? Choose the one that works best for you and do that. But I'm going to show you both ways. And sometimes I do the division because I can quickly do it in my head. But in this case, I don't know this in my head. So again, I'm moving from inches to feet. I know there's 12 inches in 1 foot, and I know that there's going to be a smaller number of feet because there's 12 inches in just one. So down here, I'm going to show my work. 12 goes into 15 one time because that's 12. And that gives me 3. Bring it on down and bring it on back. 12 goes into 36 3 times. Because 3 times 12 is 36. No remainder. So it is exactly 13 feet. If this had happened to have been 157 inches, then I would have had, I would have had 1 left over, and so that would have been 1 inch. But this was exactly even, so that was exactly 13 feet. So we can also look at it and say that this was 30 inches, or 15.5 minus 13, 2.5 feet. That's another way you could say it. And we know that that's the same because 2 feet, 12, 24, plus 6 more is 30. So it depends on the way that you want to represent that. Okay, let's turn it over to the back, page 296. Aaliyah converts 8 pints to gallons using this visual representation. So we can see here that she is moving to a larger unit. So we've got smaller, larger, larger right here. Okay, so let's look at what she's doing in this diagram. So she's filled all this in. Which unit is the smallest? How do you know? Well, how do we know pints are the smallest? Obviously, we can see them because they are the smallest unit, or the smallest rectangle, or however you want to look at it. So these 8 pints are the same as 4 quarts is the same as 1 gallon. Which is the largest? That would obviously be the gallon. And we know that in the same way. We know that it is the largest unit. It's shown that in the picture. But it is important for us to think about these when we're talking about them. Are there more or fewer of the smaller unit? It takes more pints to equal the same amount as a gallon. Are there more or fewer of the largest? There are fewer, because it takes less gallons to equal the same amount. And what are we using to go from smaller to larger? Smaller to larger, we divide. And you can see that's what they did up here, they divided. Okay, now let's look at F. Look at the liquid volume conversions in the table. How would you convert a number of fluid ounces to a number of cups? So if we are going from ounces to cups, what would we do? It didn't tell us how many, it's just saying how would you do it in general. So it's up to you how you do it. It depends on how many you have. But we know that I'm going to put fluid ounces are smaller. It takes 8 ounces to equal 1 cup. So you could divide your cups or divide your ounces by 8 to equal the cups. Or you could multiply your cups by 8 to get the ounces. So how many cups are in 32 ounces? So I like to write mine out when I see this. 32 fluid ounces equals how many cups? I know there's 8 ounces in a cup. 8, 16, 24, 32. That would be 4 cups. Okay? Let's turn the page. I would like for us to go to page 299. So we're skipping some pages because I want to do several different examples with you. So we're just going to look here where it says convert. And we're going to practice converting these various units of customary measurement. Alright? So let's look at number 6. We're changing inches to feet and inches. So I'm actually going to grab a scrap sheet of paper, so I've got room. 126 inches is how many feet and inches? So again, I'm going to think about what I know. I know there are 12 inches in a foot. And since I'm moving from smaller to bigger, that means I'm going to divide. I know that 12 goes into 12 once. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract, bring it on down, bring it on back. 12 goes into 6 0 times. It's too big. And then I know that I have 6 left over. So that means that's 10 feet, 6 inches. Which that's one that's pretty simple. I know 10 times 12 is 120. So then I'll have 6 more left. Okay? So 10 feet, 6 inches. Alright, number 8 is ounces, fluid ounces, 160 fluid ounces, and quarts. Alright, let's think about what we know about ounces and quarts. So I'm going to look back at this paper. There are 8 ounces in a cup. There are 2 cups in a pint, and there are 2 pints in a quart. So that means my quart is going to actually have 4 cups. And if I want to draw my gallon man, which I try to do, and it helps me do it quickly, we've got 2 pints in each one. So 1 quart is going to have 2 pints and 4 cups. Okay? So that means in 1 quart, there's 32 ounces. So we've got to do a lot of figuring out with these. We've got to think about what we know. So first, we had to look at the relationship with fluid ounces and quarts. I knew that 1 quart had 2 pints, which also has 2 cups. So 2, 4, and I know that 4 times 8 gives me that 32. Alright, so now that I'm again moving smaller to bigger, that means I have to divide. So I'm going to divide by 32. And 32, I'm going to have to figure out how many times it goes into 160. I'm going to try 5 because I know 5 times 30 is 150. That's 10, 15, oh, exactly 5 quarts. 5 quarts. Alright, number 10 is talking about ounces and pounds. I remember there are 16 ounces in 1 pound. 16 ounces in 1 pound. So again, it looks like I'm moving smaller to bigger, so I have to divide by 16. And again, I have to think about how many times 16 can go into 104. Let's think about, let's see. Let's try 6. That would be 36, that's 96. Okay, let's try 7. I think it might be too big. Yep, that's a little bit too big. So it goes in there 6 times, and that is 96. So if I subtract those, 97, 98, 99, 100, that'd be 8. Alright, so my remainder is 8. So let's think about it. That's 6 whole pounds, and then it's 8 ounces, but I know that 16 ounces is a pound, so 8 ounces is going to be a half of a pound. So you could say 6.5 pounds or 6 pounds, 8 ounces. Either one will work. Oh, sorry about that. And then let's do number 12 together. It says 23 feet is how many yards and how many feet? Okay. 23 feet, how many yards and feet? So we're not talking about inches. How many feet are in a yard? I remember that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. And y'all look at your charts that you have at home to help you. So again, I'm moving from smaller to bigger, so I'm gonna have to divide. 3 goes into 23 7 times, that's 21. So 7 yards, and then I have 2 feet left over. It was almost 8 yards, but not quite. 7 yards and 2 feet. Alright guys, I hope that makes sense to you. Finish this up and then complete that homework.